Live.
All right, welcome everyone to Good Medicine Way, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Up here, we're about a mile high here in this area, and we're in the land of the Isleta Pueblo people and the Sandia Pueblo people. We're kind of right in the middle here, where we're sitting. We just want to recognize that we're on their land here in this area. We want to welcome everybody, and also I want to say right at the beginning here that later on, and if you look in the chat, you're going to see a link to another meeting that's going to start right at the very end of this meeting. We're going to try to join that meeting at 7 o'clock, and that meeting has to do with those that are involved in Native ministries, and we're trying to create a network of people for support and mentoring and guidance and just fellowship. So we want to invite you all to join us there. So I want to use another way of recognizing our directions as we pray. We trying to show people that it doesn't have to be just a certain way, a 4 directions prayer or a 7 directions prayer. But I'm going to use the drum. I'm just going to hit the drum at one location to recognizing the east, the south, the west, the north, the earth, the sky, and then one big for the God that's in you. To the east, to the south, to the west, to the north, to the earth, to the sky, and to the Christ that's in you. Open us with prayer. Father God, we thank you for this evening we can come together. We've made a lot of arrangements for tonight to happen and to continue to happen with our friends all together tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll join in together. We pray your guidance over this new direction that we're leading into. You called us to train the next generation, and we want to be faithful to that. So as we go into this meeting right now, we just give you all the glory. In Christ's name, amen. And we got Creator's Insights. You guys,
Yeah.
John and Leah?
Yeah, well, Creation Insights, we just talk about how have you had a teacher that's unusual, maybe a difficulty or something from nature. Well, we're moving around a couple rooms in our house, and so I've got this little office space room now, but there's no outside window, which is sad, but I realized, the sun hits this wall over here at a certain time. If I put a mirror here, I'll be able to see the trees and sky outside in the window. So never be fenced in. There's always a way to get that good inspiration from our relatives, the trees, and in nature. And also, John is going to tell you about how we're going to maybe experiment with trying to do Creation Insights next week.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do is, when you're online and not remote and you're not next to one there, how do you get more participation? And one of the things we'd like to do is to get more input from those that are joining us. So next week on Creation Insights, we thought we were going to post a question on the Facebook page a few days before to allow you to engage with that and then be able to participate with that question. So the question next week is going to be simply something like this. If you could pick one spot in the world where you would want to commune with your Maker, where would that place in nature be? So tell us where that is and maybe a little bit about why that place is special and why that makes you feel close to Creator Sets Free.
So there'll be a couple minutes next week during the Monday time for them to share?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, we got This Week in Native America right now, and on October 30th, so this week, 1990, the Native American Languages Act was passed, enacted by Congress, and serving as a historic repudiation of past policies, and now they wanted to preserve, protect, and promote the rights of natives to use their language, which is trying to make up for decades and decades of native children being punished for speaking their language in boarding schools. So this is a great thing. We want to encourage native folks, restoring the heritage languages. There's different language nests around the world, Hawaii and up by Mohawk folks, by Jonathan Miracle, different Navajo language nests, immersion schools. So that is This Week in Native America this week.
All right, now we're going to move on over to a song right now by the Grovers. Which song?
Okay. Your gifts. We do have a what you call a PayPal account that's on our Facebook page there, and you have to look for it just a little bit, but we do take gifts there to support what we're doing here in Albuquerque. Like I said at the beginning, some of you who came on later, right following our meeting today, we're going to close out, and want you to look in the chat. There is a new link there where we're going to join Jonathan Miracle, and he's going to be talking about something that we've all been talking about in contextual ministries. How do we create a network of support for those that are in Native ministry? So Jonathan's going to lead us in that, and you're all welcome to join us. It'll be a different Zoom link that you'll need to connect to. So at 7 o'clock, we're going to transition over to that. Also, I got it on my phone here, but November 12th here in Albuquerque,
My family and I and some others, we're going to be going to a powwow here in town, probably the first one in a long time. I know down south here, I know my friend Paul Flores, he's been going to a couple powwows. So we're going to have one here in Albuquerque. It's going to be on a Saturday night from 5 o'clock until 10. And they do have a senior division, so I might be able to get out there and maybe with a little bit of oxygen, I might be able to make it through a couple of dances. So we're looking forward to that. Some friends of ours are going to be the host drum for that. They're a group called Shunta Ska. A friend of ours I've known for a long time here in Albuquerque. So welcome to join us there. And I do have a link to that on my Facebook page. And I'll share it with the Good Medicine Way page as well. So those who are close to Albuquerque, come and join us at that powwow. Other announcements?
I think Heather has something.
Yeah, I have an announcement for the Women's Circle that meets on Wednesday nights. And we're reading through Jesus and John Wayne. So it's pretty interesting and a pretty different perspective from what I thought the book was going to actually be about. So it's interesting. So if you want to join us, to the ladies, if you want to join us on Wednesday nights at 7, there is a Zoom link and there's events created in the Facebook group where it has the Zoom link. So you're more than welcome to join us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Heather. And any others that we got? If not, we're going to turn it over to a Reading Creator's Word, and John Witherow is going to read that for us.
So we're also honored tonight that, of course, we're going to be reading from the First Nations version, and we have with us Terry Wildman tonight, and we can thank Terry and his team for this wonderful gift that we now have. So Terry, thank you so much for that. And so our group here have decided this month we're going to be reading in the book of Romans, chapter 12, and we have decided as a group that for the next 30 days, we are going to read Romans 12 through and just see what Creator teaches us in that time. So if you're interested, we would invite you every day, yes, every day to do that and just see what Creator speaks or teaches us in that. But tonight, we're just going to be reading the first 2 verses of chapter 12. Becoming a true human being. So then, my sacred family members, because Creator has shown us such mercy and kindness, I now call on you to offer your whole beings, heart, mind, and strength to the Great Spirit as a living sacrifice. Do this in a sacred and spiritual manner that will make His heart glad. Do not permit the ways of this world to mold and shape you. Instead, let Creator change you from the inside out in the way a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. He will do this by giving you a new way of thinking, seeing, and walking. Then you will know for sure what the Great Spirit wants for you, things that are good, that make the heart glad, and that help you to walk the path of becoming a mature and true human being. Creator's words.
All right, thank you. Thank you, John. And tonight our speaker is going to be introduced by Heather Jim.
Hey. Hi, again. Yeah, I just want to introduce tonight's speaker. I know him more in the capacity that Native InterVarsity has him as. He's the director of leadership and spiritual growth development, something along those lines that really help and mentor other staff that are Native. Yeah, so it's been an honor to work with him and to meet with him when we can. So yeah, so without further ado, I'll let Terry Waldman introduce himself more. Thank you, Terry.
Miigwech, Heather, thank you so much for introducing me. It's good to be here. Thank you, Casey, and Good Medicine Way leaders for bringing me in here and letting me share a few things tonight. I'm going to be, I'd like to first of all say that my wife is in Michigan. In fact, she's texting me saying, "What are you doing right now?" And I had to tell her I'm on Good Medicine Way here. But she's in Michigan visiting family. right now. So I've been batching it here kind of alone in Arizona. So Darlene and I live in Maricopa, Arizona, about 20 miles south of Phoenix. And we live on the traditional lands of the Pima and the Tohono O'odham. And just coming to you this way, Buju Niji Bamadazig. Hello, my friends who share this life together with me. So tonight, I'm going to be talking about telling Creator's story. How do we tell Creator's story? In one way, Creator gave us this responsibility to learn his story. First, before you can tell a story, you have to learn the story, right? And so then you learn the story, and then you get to tell the story. And what a privilege it is to be able to tell our Creator's story to others so that others can hear that story. Because Creator sets free. Jesus said that the story of the gospel, the good story, we call it in the First Nation version, that good story has Creator's power in it to set us free and make us whole. So the story itself has Creator's power. So it's the story that the power is in, not the teller. The teller just gets to tell the story that has the power. And the power behind that story, of course, is Creator's Holy Spirit, who is the one who convinces people that this story is a true story. And this story is a story that we all need. So I'm going to talk about storytelling a little bit tonight and telling Creator's story and about the power of this storytelling. Storytelling itself has power. And when we tell this story, it has the greatest power of all to transform people's lives. And so I'm going to, as part of this project, the First Nation Version Project, some of you probably have seen the video that we worked with Crew Nations, Donnie and Renee Begay, and we worked with the Jesus Film people to create a story from the First Nation version in Matthew, where it talks about when Creator sets free, feeds 5,000 people, and then the story about how he walks on the water. And we called this story A Day and a Night with Creator Sets Free. And I'm going to show the video if we can get it going here. It takes about 7 minutes, and I would love, after the video, I'd love you to listen in on it and then give some feedback on it. So I'm going to share my screen. I think this is the one I want to, and let's see, we're going to share the sound and optimize for video. Okay. I love technology. Okay, I hope I get a thumbs up. I'm ready to play it. I can see the thumbs up there. Thank you. Greetings, my relatives. My name is Mishomis. I am a storyteller among our native peoples. Today, I want to tell you a story from the sacred book that many call the Bible. This good story was first told by gift from Creator, who was a follower of Creator Sets Free, the Chosen One, the Son of the Great Spirit. This story happened over 2,000 winters ago, far across the great waters of the sea, in the land of promise of the tribes of wrestles with Creator. I will retell this story in a way that will relate to our native people. One day, a messenger came to Creator Sets Free and told him that his cousin, Gift of Goodwill, had been killed by the bad-hearted chief Looks Brave. When Creator Sets Free heard how Gift of Goodwill had been put to death, he found a canoe and went off to a deserted place to be alone for a while. But the crowds of people, when they heard about it, went after Creator Sets Free from their villages. And when he came to shore, they were waiting for him. He felt deeply for them, so he healed the ones who were sick. Not counting the women and children, over 5,000 men had gathered in that deserted place, far from their homes. Creator Sets Free was concerned for them and wanted to give them some food before sending them away. All we had was 5 pieces of fry bread and 2 fish, so we gave them to Creator Sets Free. He took the fry bread and fish, looked up into the spirit world above, and spoke a blessing prayer over them. He broke the fry bread into smaller pieces and gave them to us to give to the people. There was enough for everyone, with 12 baskets full left over. Creator Sets Free still wanted some time alone to send his voice to the Great Spirit in prayer. So when the people had finished eating, right away Creator Sets Free had his followers get into the canoe and go ahead of him to the other side of the great lake, while he sent the people back to their homes. After that, he went up into the mountainside to be alone while he sent his voice to the Great Spirit. He stayed there and prayed as the sun set and the stars came out. His followers were still in the canoe, far from land. The wind blew strong against them, and the waves pounded the canoe and began to toss it about. Late into the night, just before the morning light, Creator Sets Free came near them, walking on the water. When his followers saw him, they cried out in terror, "It is a ghost spirit!" But he heard their cries and called out to them, "Do not fear, take heart. It is I." "Wisdom Keeper, is it you?" Stands on the rock shouted back to him, "If so, tell me now to come to you on the water." "Come," he said to him without any hesitation. With reckless abandon, Stands on the rock climbed over the side of the canoe and began to walk on the water toward him. The wind howled and the waves splashed against him as he made his way toward Creator Sets Free. But when he felt how strong the wind was, fear took hold of him. He began to sink and cried out, "Wisdom Keeper, save me!" Creator Sets Free quickly reached out and took hold of him. "Man of small faith," he said, "what made you hold back and doubt me?" The wind stopped blowing and the waves grew still as they climbed into the canoe. All 12 of his message bearers gave honor to him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of the Great Spirit." Okay. So, I wonder if I can get some feedback on this. So, what do you think this story, these two stories, there's kind of two stories here, the feeding of the 5,000 and then walking on the water. So what do you think these stories tell us about our Creator and tell us about Creator Sets Free, Jesus? Give me some thoughts. Don't be afraid to jump in.
That's right. Anyone can share.
Creator Sets Free was a person of prayer, for sure.
Yes, that's good.
I would
Yeah.
say Creator Sets Free shows compassion.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine's similar. I was gonna think along the lines of compassion is that creator sets free is in tune to the needs of people and even in our grief, like understands us.
I like it. Anyone else? Any thoughts?
Well, I noticed at the end you put it looked like a Zia sun, that we see a lot here in New Mexico on him. Is that like a common way to, instead of a halo?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we got um, Renee Begay as Zuni.
Yeah.
And so she was the one who kind of gave us permission to use a 3-prong, one of those on there, as a kind of as like a halo.
Yeah.
And that showed up twice in the video, and it just kind of highlights the special moment of revealing who this man is. One of the things about this story, when I think about Creator, I think about this says, truly, you are the Son of the Great Spirit. He's Creator's Son. So if Creator's Son does these things, it tells us something about our Creator, doesn't it? Because he's representing the Creator. And he's teaching us how we can represent the Creator in our lives. He's showing us that there are ways to do that, and what it takes. He's got his followers. You got stands on the rock Peter. He's out there. I love the way that his face looks like when Creator Sets Free tells him, yeah, come on, get out here. And he's like, they look at each other. I can only imagine what it might have been like to be there and to be on, in that canoe, in that time, and be some of the other followers that were with him there. And they're thinking, I'm so glad I kept my mouth shut, because Peter gets out there and he ends up making almost making a fool of himself in some ways, but yet teaching us a lesson that even when we doubt, he comes to our rescue, doesn't he? So to me, there's so many things. Stories hit people in different ways. You and I can hear the same story, but depending on how we were raised, depending on how what kind of culture we were raised in, whether we were raised traditional or urban, native, or whether we're native or non-native, we're all going to hear the story a little bit different. We're going to filter it through our life's experiences. And that's why it's always good to retell stories in the context of our cultures. And that's what we're trying to do here with the First Nation version, because there's such power in storytelling. Our people traditionally were storytellers, we're oral people. And this story of Creator Sets Free is a perfect story to tell. The problem we have today, of course, all of you know this, is that we have a bad history behind us in this land, where the people that were supposed to be representing the Creator weren't acting like Jesus. They weren't acting the way he would act. They weren't treating Native people in the way he would treat Native people. And so this person of Jesus gets mixed up, and the story of Jesus gets mixed up with this bad history. And so that's a part of the thing that we work on in telling the story. We have to kind of remember that this is the background to this task we have of being good storytellers. How do we tell this story in a way that's going to relate best to our Native people? I believe the good story is very powerful. I believe our Native people, being a spiritual people, If they, if we could go back in time, when some of the first settlers came and some of them had good reputations with our native people, and those that had good reputations and shared Jesus with our native people are spiritual. They recognized immediately the spirituality of Jesus, the powerful spirit he was and is. And they were willing to welcome him and take hold of him. And in the beginning, many native people became followers of Creator Sets Free, of Jesus, but then we had all this history that happened that ended up making the task harder nowadays. We have to kind of undo some things as we move forward. But I want to talk about the power of stories and the power of storytelling. First of all, there's short stories, right? And there's epic stories, long stories. How many watched all 6? You got The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Who could sit all through those? What epic stories. But what I loved about The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, even though they were gigantic epic stories and long, and they reached this one climax, there was all these little stories happening along the way that helped us get to the end of the story. Because the end of the story was the powerful part of it, and all these little stories helped us get to that ending. Because if we would have saw the ending before we saw all the little stories leading up to it, it wouldn't have meant the same thing to us. And that's why it's important when we tell the story of Creator Sets Free to start way before him. We have to start with our Creator, with the Great Spirit, with the one who made the world, the creation of the world and everything. And then we talk about, how he chose a particular tribal nation to reveal himself in a special way to this tribal nation. Not that he didn't reveal himself to other tribes in other places. Of course he did. He revealed himself to all the people on the world. He's the light that shines on everyone that comes into the world. But the Jewish people had a special calling and a special purpose that Creator was calling them to. And the focus of everything came on them. But that was how Creator was going to bring healing to the nations and healing to all of us, because of all of us are native people. We all know we need healing. We all know that things get out of balance, things get out of harmony. And that's why we had ceremonies. Our ceremonies were prayers to bring things back into harmony when they got out of harmony. And so we knew that we had to pray with sage to purify our thoughts and hearts, because we knew that our thoughts and hearts got impure along the way somewhere. And so now we're praying to have our hearts purified. And so those are what our prayers are about. And I love that. I love the idea that we all were taught by the Creator in some way that things aren't quite the way they're supposed to be. And we need prayers, and we need ceremonies, and we need all these things to help us find that path that leads to him. And that's what we call the good road, or sometimes it's called the red road. But so stories, short stories are set in the context of larger stories. And so some stories have surprise endings. How many ever, this is going to date me. I was a teenager when I saw the first movie, Planet of the Apes. Now you're going to say, what is he talking about that for? Well, that had a surprise ending. You're thinking you're on some planet somewhere else where there's apes in charge of everybody. And the humans are like, don't talk and everything. And these people from Earth are visiting this planet. Oh, good old Charlton Heston, the Ten Commandment guy. And he's in there. But it's at the end, he thinks he's on another planet, but at the end he finds out that it's really the Earth in the future. And that it was his own planet. And then when you begin to understand what by the surprise ending, you understand the rest of the story. And that's kind of how the story of Israel, the tribes of wrestles with Creator, Israel, had a surprise ending to their story. And the surprise was the Messiah, Jesus, Creator sets free, came in a way they didn't expect and came to bring something none of them were, very few of them were prepared for. And only a few of them actually responded to him, and which is part of the sadness of that part of the story. But another thing that storytelling does is in our Western way of thinking, we're all about, teachings and doctrine, and you have your points, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4. Well, stories don't work that way. Stories aren't about putting things, all the ducks in order, but it is important we tell the story the right way. And we tell the story with the original meaning that it was supposed to have, but it's very different than just teaching. And teaching's important, doctrine's important, but storytelling sets teaching into the context of our lives. Our native storytellers, our traditional storytellers, they had the job of helping everyone understand why we're here, why we're called whatever name our tribe is called, why we're called by that name. What was the story behind the purpose that we are here? And so all these stories were important to help us understand our place on this earth and how we fit into Creator's plan on the earth. So the Bible is an epic story. It's a huge story. It's bigger than Lord of the Rings. It's bigger than The Hobbit. It's a story that spans thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's an old story that needs to be told over and over again. It's a story of this one tribe. It doesn't take away our stories. It adds to our stories. It fits in some ways, it fits our stories as Native people. The story of, for example, the story of creation in Genesis chapter 1. We look at that story, and a lot of people, the way they look at the story is they look at it scientifically. Well, whoever said we were supposed to look at that story scientifically? That story was meant to be a spiritual story, a spiritual telling of creation, of how the world came to be and how we got messed up in this world, how things went wrong in the beginning, and how we strayed away from Creator's path and all these things. And it's a spiritual story that talks about the beginnings of humankind. And so our stories, we have creation stories in our tribes. This creation story that the Hebrew people have doesn't do away with our stories. Our stories are also not scientific. They're spiritual. And they tell us things about our people, things about our origins, things about how we fit into the world. And we have to take our stories and set them beside the story of the Jewish people and in the story of creation and see where the common ground is and see what are we learning spiritually from these stories. What do they tell us about who we are as human beings? What do they tell us about each other? What do they tell us about other tribal nations and different things? So the good story, the gospel, is not a doctrine. It's the story of Creator sets free. It is the surprise ending, the climax to the story of the tribes of wrestles with Creator of Israel. And it shows how the Creator, the Gospels, the good story shows how that through Creator sets free, the Creator fulfilled his promises that went clear back to that garden where the first man and first woman messed up. That story, Creator sets free, takes that story and brings it to completion. He brings it to its purpose, and he restores back what was lost by the original people. So let me read from the First Nation version in Matthew chapter 13, verses 34 and 35. Gift from Creator, Matthew, is quoting Jesus here, and he says, Creator sets free, Jesus, would use only stories like these when he spoke to the crowds. He taught nothing to the crowds without using a story. And I think that's amazing that he never taught the crowds of people that he was with, he never taught them without including stories in his things. And in doing so, he fulfilled prophecy, ancient prophecy, because the prophecy says this, I will tell many stories, stories of the ancient ways, things hidden since the beginning of the world. So Jesus came and he taught with stories. So that tells us something. We're supposed to teach with stories. We're supposed to use storytelling. Sometimes our stories are about our own lives. We call that our testimony. In other words, where on our life journey, we came across somebody. We came across another story, and that story changed our lives. And why did that story change my life? Why did the story about Creator Sets Free, about his death on the tree pole, the cross, and his resurrection, why does that, what about that story took a hold of my heart and took a hold of my soul and drew me to him? I wasn't drawn to church or the way at least the way church is done, but I was drawn to him. And so I put up with church so I can, because he says, hey, this is my plan to get you guys together and have gatherings and listen to each other. And I'm going to give special gifts to different people, and you're going to share those gifts together, and you're going to tell your stories to each other, and then you're going to help each other tell the story to people on the that don't come to the gatherings. So storytelling is very powerful and it's very necessary. I'm gonna jump over to what's some scientific research. I found this fascinating. Scientific research on stories. Scientists actually have dug into, why do stories work? Why do they do what they do? What is there about stories? And so that research tells us that stories activate a part of our brain that turns information into personal ideas. See, when you get teaching, you're getting information. But often we don't turn those information into ideas. But stories help us turn information into ideas about how things are done. And the stories help us do that. And scientists say it turns into personal ideas and experiences. They've also found that it's simple stories are better than complicated stories. Isn't that interesting? Simple stories, according to scientists, impact people more than complicated things, complicated stories. Some researchers believe that the overuse of certain phrases and figures of speech means that those words and phrases begin to lose their power to affect our imaginations. Oh, wow. So that means if we get used to just one translation of the Bible, and that's all we ever read, we hear the same words over and over and over and over and over again, and pretty soon they're not having that power on us and impact on us that it used to have when we first heard it. So hearing a story told in a new way hits us emotionally differently and opens new ideas up to us. So rephrasing and using new figures of speech can activate the emotional centers of our brains, according to scientists, in new ways. This helps a person to integrate the stories and the words and the ideas into their own life and their own experiences. And that's what needs to happen. Jesus used stories. He used called parables to present his message in a new form. He was taking all those ancient teachings and putting them into new words for people. He was taking the law and presenting it in a new way, the law that Creator gave Israel. He was putting new words around it and a new way to look at the law that was different than the way they had been looking at it, because they were looking at it the wrong way. And he had to come and show them the right way to look at it, but he had to use stories to do it. And so he used words and situations that were familiar to the people around him, to the people in his culture, to the people in his day. He told about farming and seed planting and all these different things in their own culture. He told about weddings, their weddings, and they would understand exactly what that story was trying to convey. They would, at least they would connect to the cultural aspects of that story. And that was important because it began to open their hearts to the tough thing he was trying to tell them. He was trying to tell them some really hard truths, but he used stories to do it, so that they wouldn't immediately get defensive about it. He presented hard-hitting truths, but in a subversive way, in a way that snuck it past their defense systems. And that's what Creator wants us to do as we tell stories. So let me ask you, what is better? To hear a dictionary definition of the word faith, defining it in English, Hebrew, and Greek? Or is it better to hear a story about someone's faith? Maybe like the story of the woman who overcomes her fear and touches Creator Sets Free's garment, and she's healed. Now, faith isn't just a definition, it's an action, it's a story. We see how that faith was lived out in her life. We see how Creator Sets Free and his disciples reacted to her, and how her story fits in now. Can we relate to that story? Yeah, we begin to relate to it. Or how about the story of the men who they can't get into a house, so they take a cripple and they put him up on the roof and they break open the roof and they lower him down. A story of faith. And again, it's through the storytelling that Jesus took that whole thing, and it's a story that we read now, and we see the meaning of faith, not through being it defined in our heads, but having it impact us in a story form. So that's the power of storytelling. Today, I'm just sharing some highlights. I hope you'll take this a little further. I hope you'll begin to use the First Nation version in a good way to retell the story. Maybe you'll want to, open up some new things. I hope we can create some new videos for people to use, and maybe he's going to inspire some of you and that are hearing me speak today with some ideas of how to be a good storyteller. Miigwech, Bizindawiyeg. Thank you for listening.
And we'll give you a drum beat too. Thank you, Terry. That was great. We really support you on this. I know it's been a long journey for you, and a lot of dreams are coming true for you. I know I've known you a long time, and back in the day here when you came over to our house and we did some ceremony, I'm glad everything is coming that way. So we are in a transition right now, and I don't want to lose anybody on this, but if you'd like to join us now in a second meeting that's to follow right after this, in the chat is a link to another Zoom that's going to be with Terry and I, the Good Medicine team here, Jonathan Miracle, Pete Gearhart from Oregon, and we're going to have another meeting about creating what's called the Sacred Circle of One. Jonathan Miracle has a dream for uniting us in a network of people, and he wants to talk about that. So please join us, but if you need to go, that's fine, but hit the link and join us. We're going to turn right over to that now, and we are also here. We're going to connect also to that Zoom. So thank you for being with us tonight. Good to see. We got all these little boxes on us. We're just great. It just gives our heart just great joy to know so many people are joining us tonight. So I'll let you go now. Go take care of some business, grab a drink, and join us on the next part of this.
All right, and you can get that link out of the chat, and the link is also on the comments on the live stream. So either place you can get it. I'll leave us going for a little bit, just in case you need to grab it from the chat. But yeah, so sign off from here and connect to the other Zoom link, and we'll see you over there.
And remember, we're here every Monday at 6 Mountain Time. See
Yes.
you next week.
See you next week.
All right.
Great, Terry. We'll see you in a little bit.